After that night, everything changed. Not loudly, not clearly, but enough for me to feel that a line had been erased. Evander was still beside me, like before, but he no longer kept the full distance. He no longer avoided accidental touches. He no longer dodged my eyes for too long. And sometimes, he forgot to hold back. Like right now, we were sitting in the library. I rested my head on his shoulder, perfectly natural, as if I had done it 100 times before. Evander froze for a second. I felt it, but he didn't push me away. He didn't say anything. He just sat still. After a few seconds, I heard his soft exhale, as if he were trying to adjust to something that had once been so familiar. Evander. Yeah. Do you remember how we used to be? The question slipped out. No thinking. I just wanted to know. He stayed quiet for a moment. Then, every single detail. My heart tightened. So, back then. I hesitated. Were we happy? A simple question, but the answer was anything but simple. Evander didn't reply right away. He looked down at his hands, then said, yes. One beat, and no. I lifted my head, looked at him. What do you mean? Evander smiled faintly, but that smile was so light it almost disappeared. We were happy when we were together, he said, voice steady. But we weren't happy when we had to face the rest of the world. I understood, or at least, I thought I did. Family? I asked. He didn't answer, but the silence was enough. I gently tugged at his sleeve. And now? I asked. Do you still want to be with me? Evander turned to look at me, his eyes no longer hiding anything. What do you think? I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because I already knew. But there was one thing I hadn't said yet. One thing I was still avoiding. Evander. Yeah. If I remember everything. I looked straight into his eyes. And I'm still the person who said those words. I swallowed hard. What will you do? The air went still. This time Evander didn't dodge. He looked at me for a long time. Then, I'll wait. A simple answer, but heavy enough to steal my breath. Wait for what? I whispered. Wait for you to choose again. My heart clenched. And if I choose to leave again? This time, Evander didn't answer immediately. He turned away, looked out the window. Afternoon sunlight fell across his face, highlighting the exhaustion he always tried to hide. Then I won't stop you. Those words felt like a knife, not because they were cold, but because they were too honest. I squeezed my fists. You're always like this, I said softly. Always the one who stays. Evander didn't argue. He just stayed quiet. I took a deep breath. Then, I leaned in and kissed him. It was only a light touch, very quick, but enough to freeze us both. Evander went completely still, didn't move, didn't breathe, as if time had stopped. I pulled back, heart racing. Sorry. I said immediately, sorry, I shouldn't have. But before I could finish, Evander grabbed my wrist, pulled me back. And this time, he kissed me. Gently, without hesitation, but full of everything he had been holding back. All this time, poured into that single kiss. I couldn't react. I only knew. I didn't want to push him away. My hands clutched his shirt. My heart beat so fast it hurt, but not from fear, because felt right. A familiar feeling, as if I had stood here before, done this before, loved him, exactly like this. Evander pulled away first, breathing hard. His eyes darkened. Caspian. His voice was hoarse. Don't do this if you're not sure. I looked at him. No dodging. You think I'm not sure? I asked, clearly. Evander didn't answer. He just looked at me, as if searching for something. A sign. A guarantee. I reached up, touched his cheek, carefully. Maybe I don't remember everything, I said, but I know this feeling is real. I placed my hand over my heart. And it belongs to you. A long silence. Evander closed his eyes, as if finally letting go of something. Then, he pulled me closer, held me tight, as if there was no longer any reason to keep distance. You have no idea what you're doing to me, he whispered, voice slightly trembling. I held him tighter. Maybe not, I replied. But this time I don't want to stop. But deep inside, I knew we were standing on a fragile line between the present and the past. And if one day I remembered everything might break again. But this time, I didn't want to run anymore. We started over. No official words. No, let's get back together. Just, we were together. And this time, we stopped pretending to be just best friends. Evander didn't talk much more, but he touched me more. Small touches, but he no longer pulled away quickly, as if he had finally allowed himself to feel again. Like right now, we were sitting on the grass behind the dormitory. Late afternoon, soft sunlight. I lay stretched out, head on his lap. Evander was reading, one hand holding the book, the other absent-mindedly stroking my hair, like a habit. I like this, I said, eyes closed. Like what? The way you touch me. His fingers paused. 1 second, then continued, but slower, more careful. Did I used to do this a lot? I asked. Evander stayed quiet, for a while, then, yeah. Just one word, but I heard something very soft in his voice. I opened my eyes, looked up at him. You really remember everything? Yeah. Even things like this? Yeah. I smiled faintly. So you're living with two versions of me, huh? Evander stopped, his gaze lowered. No, he said, voice low. Just one. I frowned. But I'm not the same as before. Evander looked at me for a long time, then, you're still you. That answer warmed my heart, but at the same time, scared me. Because if I was still me, then the person who hurt him was still me. Evander. Yeah. Did I ever tell you I loved you? The question came out suddenly. Evander didn't answer right away. His fingers paused in my hair. After a long moment. Yes. His voice was very soft. My heart pounded. How many times? I asked. I didn't know why, but I needed to know. Evander smiled sadly. Enough that I'll never forget. I turned my face away, no longer looking at him. But in the end, I still left. I said, as if sentencing myself. Evander didn't argue, didn't comfort me. He only placed his hand on my forehead. You came back. Those words didn't erase the past, but they gave me a reason to stay. In the days that followed, we became more like a couple, not public, not loud, but enough for people around us to notice. So you two finally stopped pretending, huh? A classmate teased. I froze. What do you mean? She raised an eyebrow. Don't tell me you don't remember. I smiled awkwardly. I really don't. She looked at me slightly surprised, then glanced at Evander. Then he's really good. Good at what? Good at pretending he never loved you that much. I stayed silent, turned to look at Evander. He didn't react, just quietly drank his coffee, as if he was used to being seen through. That night, I couldn't sleep, not because of memories, but because of those words, pretending he never loved. I turned to him. Evander was lying beside me, not sleeping. I knew, because his breathing was still awake. Evander. Yeah. Are you tired? A simple question, but the meaning wasn't simple at all. He stayed quiet for a moment. Then, yes. I gently squeezed his hand. Because of me? Yeah. No hesitation, no denial. My heart tightened. Then why don't you leave? Evander turned to look at me, in the dark. His eyes were still clear. Because I don't want to. I smiled bitterly. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. He smiled lightly too. But it's true. Peaceful silence, but also heavy. I'm scared, I said, quietly, almost a whisper. Evander didn't ask, scared of what? He just waited. I'm scared that one day. I swallowed. I'll remember everything. Yeah. And I'll become that person again. The one who left him. The one who said cruel things. Evander looked at me. No avoidance. Then this time, he said, don't run. My heart pounded. And if I still want to run? I asked, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know. Evander didn't answer right away. He reached up, touched my cheek. Then I'll hold you back. Those words weren't force, weren't control. They were promise. I closed my eyes, leaned into his hand. Then I whispered, don't let me go. Evander didn't answer. He only pulled me closer, held me tight. And for the first time since I woke up, I slept peacefully. But somewhere, deep in my subconscious, I knew the memories hadn't all returned yet. And when they did, everything would change. The memories didn't come back all at once. They didn't arrive like a huge wave. Instead, they came in fragments, small, sharp, and painful enough every time I touched them. It started with the simplest things. One morning, while I was brushing my teeth in front of the mirror, I suddenly remembered. Evander used to stand behind me, hugging me from behind, chin resting on my shoulder. You've been hogging the bathroom too long. His voice lazy, and I laughed. Then wait. I froze. Toothbrush fell from my hand, heart racing. The image vanished, but the feeling remained clear. Another time, while we were studying in the library, Evander handed me a piece of paper. You always forget this formula. I took it, looked down, and another memory flooded in. The same piece of paper, but last time, I didn't take it. I don't need you to remind me. My voice cold. Evander stayed silent, then folded the paper, said nothing more. I let go. The paper fell onto the table, my breathing chaotic. Caspian? His voice pulled me back. I looked at him, couldn't speak, didn't know what to say. Each memory was a puzzle piece, and none of them were perfect. I began to understand. We had loved each other very much, but we had also hurt each other. A lot. Evander. One evening I called him. We were sitting in the room. No lights. Only the glow from the window. Yeah. Back then. I hesitated. Did we fight a lot? Evander stayed quiet. For a long time. Then. Yeah. I smiled faintly. Not happily. Because of me? Not just you. He said. Both of us. I looked at him. But I was the one who left. Evander didn't deny it. I clenched my fists. At that time. My voice grew smaller. Did I ever say I didn't love you anymore? A question. But I already knew. The answer would hurt. Evander didn't reply right away. He looked at me, eyes deep, then, no. I froze. No? Yeah. He said, you never said that. My heart skipped. Then why? Evander turned away. You said you didn't want to live like this anymore. I closed my eyes. Those words came back. What do you mean like this? I asked, voice trembling. Evander didn't answer immediately. He took a breath. Then, having to hide. I opened my eyes, looked at him. Your family? He nodded slightly. I understood, or at least, I was starting to. And me? I asked. What about my family? Evander looked at me, a flicker of hesitation. Then, you weren't afraid of them. I smiled weakly. Sounds backwards, doesn't it? Yeah. A silence. I was the weaker one. I said, not a question, a statement. Evander shook his head. No. He looked at me. You were just tired. Those words weren't an excuse. They were understanding. I lowered my head. But I hurt you. Yeah. He didn't deny it. My heart ached, but I no longer ran from it. Evander. Yeah. I want to remember everything. The moment the words left my mouth, the air changed. Evander looked at me for a long time. Are you sure? I nodded. Yeah. I don't want to love you while not knowing what I did to you. A long silence. Okay. He said at last. But not alone. I looked at him, confused. Evander stood up, walked to the desk, took out an old notebook, cover slightly worn. He held it, hesitated for a second, then gave it to me. I wasn't planning to show you this, he said, voice low, but maybe you need it. I took it, hands trembling slightly. What is it? I asked. Evander looked at the notebook. This time his eyes couldn't hide the emotion. What's left? My heart pounded hard. I opened it. First page. My handwriting. March 12th. I think I'm falling in love with Evander. I stopped breathing. Next page. March 27th. I hate having to hide him from my family, but I hate not having him more. My hands shook. Next page. May 10th. We had our first fight. I said things I shouldn't have. Next page. July 2nd. I'm so tired. I don't know how much longer I can take this. I stopped. Couldn't read anymore. Don't force yourself. Evander's voice came, soft. But I shook my head. No. I gripped the notebook tighter. I have to know. I flipped to the last page. August 18th. I paused, took a deep breath, then read. I'm ending this, not because I don't love him, but because I'm not strong enough to keep going. Tears fell onto the page. I'm sorry. I couldn't read any further. Everything was clear. I wasn't someone who didn't love. I was someone who wasn't brave enough to keep loving. And that hurt even more than not loving. I hugged the notebook tightly, didn't speak, couldn't breathe. Evander didn't come closer, didn't touch me. He just stood there, giving me space. But this time, I didn't want space. I stood up, walked to him, hugged him, tight. I'm sorry. I whispered, voice breaking. This time I remember. Evander froze. 1 second, then he hugged me back. Without saying a word. But this time, we were no longer standing between two versions of each other. Only, the truth remained. And that truth hurt. After reading the notebook, I was no longer the person from before, no longer Caspian who only felt he loved Evander. I was Caspian, who now understood how deeply I had loved, and what I had done to that love. In the days that followed, I became quieter, not because I was avoiding, but because I needed time to face myself. Evander didn't ask, didn't push, he just stayed by my side, like always. But I knew. He was waiting, not for my memories to return, but for me to make my choice. One afternoon, I stood alone in front of the old building behind the school. A place few people went, quiet, and strangely familiar. Caspian. His voice came from behind. I didn't turn around, only said, "We used to come here, didn't we?" Evander stopped. "Yeah." I smiled faintly. "This place is ugly." "Yeah." He replied, "But you liked it." I turned around, looked at him. "Why?" Evander stepped closer. "Because here, no one could see us." My heart clenched. I looked around. Old walls, broken windows, a forgotten place. Just like our love back then. "Evander." "Yeah." "Back then, did you hate me?" The moment the question left my lips, the air grew heavy. Evander didn't answer right away. He looked at me for a long time, then, "Yes." I nodded, not surprised. "But not because you left," he continued, voice low, "but because you didn't let me stay with you." I froze. "You decided everything by yourself." He looked at me, no anger left in his eyes, only truth. "You thought you were protecting me." One beat. "But you never asked if I wanted to be protected that way." I lowered my head, couldn't argue, couldn't. "I'm sorry," I said, sincerely. Evander didn't say anything, just stood there. I took a deep breath, then looked up, straight into his eyes. "This time," I said, voice still shaking, but no longer backing down, "I don't want to decide alone anymore." Evander froze slightly. "I know I chose to leave before." I continued, "And I know, if everything goes back to the way it was." I stopped, clenched my fists. "I'll still be scared." No hiding, no denial. But this time, I stepped closer, stopped right in front of him. "I want to be scared with you." A silence. Evander looked at me, as if checking whether I truly understood what I was saying. I can't promise I won't run, I said, honestly. But I promise. I reached out, took his hand. I won't run alone anymore. Evander's hand gently tightened. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then, he pulled me in, held me tight. This time, not because of loss, not because of fear, but because we chose each other. Caspian. His voice hoarse. You don't have to be perfect. I held him tighter, but I want to be better. Evander didn't reply. He just held me, as if that was enough. In the days that followed, we truly started over. Not like two strangers, not like two people trying to fill the gaps, but two people who understood each other's scars and still chose to stay. We started being more open, not flashy, but we stopped hiding completely. Holding hands in quiet places, eyes that no longer needed to look away, evening walks back to the dorm, no longer having to split at the corner. I was still scared. Family, pressure, the stairs. But this time, I wasn't alone. You okay? Evander asked as we stood in front of a crowded gathering. I gently squeezed his hand. With you, I'm okay. He didn't say anything, just held my hand tighter. And I realized, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's still choosing to stay, even when you're scared. One rainy day, we stood under the same shelter, just like the first time. Evander opened the umbrella, handed it to me. Let's go. I looked at him, didn't move. Caspian. I stepped forward, not beside him, but very close. Then, I pulled him in and kissed him, without hesitation. And this time, there were no unfinished memories. Only the present. Evander froze, 1 second, then kissed me back. Rain fell all around us, but under the umbrella, there was only us. Just like the memory, but different. This time, there was no goodbye. Everything seemed to be okay. Not perfect, but solid enough for me to believe. This time we wouldn't repeat the old mistakes. Until the day I saw my family again. It was a weekend evening. I went home because my mother called. We need to talk. The familiar sentence. And I knew. It had never been good. The house was the same, neat and suffocating. Caspian. My father sat in the living room, his eyes as cold as always. How's your health? Good. Memory? Slowly coming back. A silence. Good then, he said, because there are some things you need to remember. My heart tightened. I heard. He continued, you're seeing that boy again. He didn't need to say the name. I knew. Evander. I clenched my fists. Yes. The air changed instantly. Caspian. His voice dropped. Have you forgotten why you had to end it? I stayed silent. Or did you never understand? I looked up, straight at him. I understand. One beat. But this time, I don't want to run anymore. The moment the words left my mouth, the air froze. My father stood up, slowly, but full of pressure. What do you think you're doing? He asked. Going against your family? I didn't answer immediately, just took a breath. I'm just living my own life. Those words made him laugh, a cold laugh. Your life? He repeated. Who do you think gave you that life? I clenched my fists tighter. Not so I could live it for someone else. A slap. The sound rang out. My head jerked to the side, ears ringing. You still haven't learned anything. His voice cold. I didn't say anything, didn't fight back. But this time, I didn't turn away. I have learned, I said, clearly, from my own mistakes. My father looked at me, eyes darkening. Then let me remind you again, he said. That boy doesn't belong in your world. My heart clenched. And if you continue, then what? I cut him off. For the first time, the whole room went silent. I looked straight at him. I already lost him once. My voice trembled, but I didn't back down. I won't do it again. A long, heavy silence. My father said nothing more. He only turned away. Get out. I stood there. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then, I turned my back, walked out the door. Without looking back. This time, I didn't run away. I chose. When I stepped outside, it was raining. Just like that day. But this time, I wasn't alone. Caspian. His voice. I turned around. Evander was standing there, soaked, as if he had been waiting under the rain for a long time. My heart tightened. What are you doing here? He walked toward me, didn't answer right away, just looked at me. I figured you'd need me. A simple sentence. But enough to make everything inside me crumble. I smiled, tears mixing with rain. I always need you. Evander stepped closer, looked at me, his eyes no longer hesitant. You okay? I nodded. Now I am. Then I stepped forward, hugged him. No hesitation, no distance. Just, I didn't want to stand alone anymore. Evander hugged me back, tight. This time, I whispered, I've chosen. He didn't ask what I chose, because he already knew. 1 week later, I went to find Evander, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to say it. We stood in the park, light rain again. I looked at him, took a deep breath. I don't remember everything, I said, voice calm. But I know one thing. Evander looked at me, unblinking. I've fallen in love with you again. A silence. He froze, truly, as if he didn't dare believe it. I stepped closer, took his hand. This time, I said, softly, but certain. Give me the chance to love you the right way. Can I? Evander didn't answer right away. He looked at me, for a long time. Then, he squeezed my hand tightly. Yes. His voice hoarse. But this time, there was no fear. Another rainy day. We stood under the same umbrella. Exactly like the old memory. But this time, no goodbye. No pretending. Evander pulled me closer. And this kiss was no longer unfinished. ND.